Okay, hi. I did up this this video especially for my JCSP students. So anyone with additional needs, you can find my website first of all on Mr. McGarry. That's MrMacGarry.weebly.com. Okay, if you Google that as well, you'll find it. Next thing you'd click on is you come up here along the top, and it's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth tab across. And then what you do is you click on CSP Statements, and you'll find the photograph below with all the items that you need to know for the CSP course. And also, if you want to see this video, you'll find it here under CSPE videos. Okay, right, so to begin, this is JCSP Statements for first and second years. You see if we scroll to the top of the page, you've got differentiated CSP handouts, you've class-based assessments, and also within this tab, you've lots of different visuals and audio links for CSP, which also can be useful. You can play around with different ones there to see which suits, and email me feedback, maybe ones that you find are useful. Also, as you know, in my class, the JCSP Club, you guys can do half the work, depending on your additional lead. Yeah, and also you can use the likes of more audio, more visuals, graphic organizers, which I've handed out in class. And for level 2, I hand out specific handouts in class that were given to me by the head teacher for additional needs in our school. So I use a booklet for that, and then photocopy some things for level 2. Also, all JCSP students can do posters to raise awareness on different topics. So strand 1 is all about human rights and human dignity. So you could do a poster, say raising awareness about homelessness in Ireland or poverty around the world. Strand 2 is all about sustainability. So the students could do a poster raising awareness about climate change. Okay, so in order to do that, you'd need to Google, using google.scholar.com, some facts and information about climate change. Same when you're doing the poster on homelessness, you'd Google facts about, just type in facts about homelessness in Ireland 2020, try and get as relevant and as up to date as possible. And then the third website we have, the third strand we have is called Exploring Democracy. And within that, you have, we talk about politics, talk about parties, political parties. And we also talk about, in strand 3, we also talk about law. And then finally, we talk about the role of media. So students can do a poster raising awareness about a political party that they look up to, or leader. They could do a document using Google Docs or whatever's easiest to do a profile about our Taoiseach, our leader, telling us as much information as they can find out about our leader, and maybe find the picture and adding it to it. In terms of law, students can pick any topic within law, maybe draw a diagram for what courts are in Ireland and the layout of how that is organised. So which court comes first, which comes second, and just knowing that there's a difference between civil law and criminal law. Criminal is basically for theft and crimes, whereas civil is more for relationships and problems with purchases, consumer purchases, etc. And lastly, then the role of media. Well, what you can do there is you can do a document. I mean, it doesn't have to be too long, and you can have loads of visuals, and you can use audio instead if you want. There's no problem there. And what you can do is talk about why you think the media is a big influence on the world, and what maybe you think is good about social media, such as Facebook and Google and YouTube, and what you think might be the dangers with it. And just be aware never to give your private information to anyone. And just be aware that the news isn't always the truth when you read it on Facebook or YouTube or Snapchat and various other social media. As you're always better to go to your parents first or your teacher to see if what you're reading or watching is the truth. Okay, and then lastly, what each JCSP student can do is, on each strand that they've listened to in class, strand 1, 2, and 3, whichever strands are done. We usually in first year we do strand 1. In second year we usually do strands 2 and 3. But this year, given the general election and COVID-19, we've done strand 1 followed by strand 3, and then we're going to do strand 2 last, which is all about the environment and sustainability. Okay, so the videos are going to be useful as well. So watch the videos that I've put up on law and the role of media in strand 3. Moving on. So what do you need to know for CSP? So it shows you here what you need to know for CSP when you're in the JCSP club. So it says name the Taoiseach, the president, the local TD and the local councillor. Okay, so what you need to know there is that the Taoiseach's name is currently Leo Varadkar, and watch out, it might change to Micheál Martin or Eamon Ryan of the Green Party. The president is currently Michael D. Higgins. That changes every 7 years, whereas the Taoiseach changes every 5 years. And in your local TDs, who's a local TD in your area? We have Joe O'Brien of the Green Party in Fingal. Okay, and then you have Darragh Bryn of Fianna Fáil, and you've Alan Farrell of Fine Gael. Yeah. So those people were also local councillors before they're local TDs. Local TDs are more when they get elected. Yeah, more votes and have more power. Okay, so name the main political parties in the state and the parties of the present government. So you just list off the names of political parties. You've got the Green Party, you've got Fianna Fáil, you've got Fine Gael, you've got Labour, you've got Sinn Féin, you've got the Social Democrats, and you've got Independents, among others. Okay, so explain how, but that's enough for you to know. Explain how to vote, and that is, where do you vote and how do you fill in a voting form? Well, you often have to go to community centres or primary schools. Your parents, when you're 18, you go to a primary school or a community centre, and there's places there where you fill out a piece of paper and you mark 1 to 10, for example, in order of preference, what politician you're going to vote for. Yeah. And then list the occasions when a person can vote. Well, they can vote for various things. There can be changes to how Ireland's going to be run. It can be voting for people that you want to lead, for who you think should be leading the country, what parties should be leading the country. So that's different occasions when you can vote. There was recent referendums then on abortion, on divorce, discussions on it. And when referendum has happened, then people can vote yes or no whether to change the law in Ireland as well. So that's another occasion. Give reasons why everyone should vote. Everyone should vote because we have a democracy, which means that we have the right to vote for the people that we want to represent us and lead us. Whereas some countries like North Korea, they have a dictator, so he wasn't voted in by the people. He's only there because his dad was the leader, and now he automatically becomes the leader. Even though some people would argue that maybe he's not a great leader, arguably, and they would argue that maybe he's too much responsibility for nuclear weapons and different things like that. Anyway, moving on. Name a local authority and state where it is. So our local authority, local county council, is the Fingal County Council. I guess you need to remember that. Now I'm on number 7. So give examples of the services provided by a local authority. So they fix the lighting, fix the roads, collect rubbish, and they do loads of things. Most things that happen around the community to keep the community right are done by the Fingal County Council in Rush. So yeah. Now, explain how a local councillor or TD is elected and what role he or she has in the community. Well, they have to go around knocking on doors, trying to get people to vote for them. And they're trying to get into power. They might be part of a party, or they might do it on their own. And their role then is to represent the people and bring whatever problems or ideas people have from, say, Rush into local government. And then that then goes from local government then into the national government, which is the real government, which at the moment is Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. And the Green Party's in the middle of thinking of going into power with them. Okay, so moving down then. Locate, number 9. Okay, so locate government departments and get information from a government department or national organisation. Okay, so you're being asked to locate government departments and get information from a government department. Government departments are like the Department of the Environment. Again, it changes titles a lot, so be mixed in maybe with different items. And then maybe the Department of Finance, the Department of Social Welfare. So you locate those departments. A lot of them are based in Dublin. Department of Education is in Athlone. And you can email them and get information from a government department or national organisation. That's one of the tasks you're asked to basically find the email on Google, type in Department of Education, and then write a short note saying, could you give me some information, please, about your department and what it does. And then once you get that response, then that's your activity done. Now, name 2 international groups to which Ireland belongs. Well, we belong to the United Nations, which helps protect the world and encourages the world to work together. And we're also part of a union called the European Union. That's people from Europe working together. Okay, so describe the work of one international group of which Ireland is a member. Right, so the work of the United Nations then is to keep peace in the world. And that's probably the easiest one to remember. They also help with friendships and alliances and cooperation throughout the world for various issues that might happen, like the COVID-19 virus. They'd be trying to get countries to work together for the benefit of humankind and the world. Okay, so explain how being in an international group can benefit Ireland, the local community, and the person. So, the way we benefit from being part of an international group is we get to get protection for a start from our UN members in times of war. We also send our own soldiers, and they are then part of the UN, the United Nations peacekeeping troops around the world, which helps keep stability in the world. And then there's international laws and international agreements to try and keep countries happy with each other. So, how does it help the local community? Well, it helps the local community because if we have a stable world, we're going to have a more stable community, arguably. And then the person, well, we should all feel connected. The world only prospers when we all work together, especially for things like climate change and the environment. We need to work together as a world to solve that problem or that crisis. Okay, so I'll stop that video here and then I'll do part 2 just because it's quite long and there's 12, so I could go on, but we'll end it there. If you have any questions, you know my email is john.mcgarry@stjosephsrush.com, and we're also on Schoology and we've our Google Drives set up as well. So yeah, thanks for your attention and keep safe. This is part 1 of the JCSP statements. The next video will be called part 2 of JCSP statements. Okay, hello again and welcome. I'm going to have a look at JCSP statements part 2. And again, no need to worry if you don't get through all of these. nor understand them all. It's to be done over 2 years. And these are the things you need to know over 2 years. It's a good idea to try and write out the answers in your own words or pictures or visuals or audio to help you remember them. Yeah, JAWS, if this is a backup, you can pause and go back, replay if you forget answers. And you can ask me questions if you want further explanation, or if you've a query about something, or concern or suggestion. Yeah, okay. So this is, you'll scroll down to the same website, mrmcgarry.weebly.com, then go into JC Junior Cert, JCSP, and then click on the slides. You'll find the videos in this one called CSP videos. These photographs of JCSP statements are in this tab called JCSP Statements. Okay, so to begin, this is more about the individual, community, and society. And the things I'd like you to know are as follows. So understanding the rights and responsibilities and describe the different social groupings in society. So this ties in more into unit strand 1, yeah, which talks about people's responsibilities, human rights, dignity, etc. So the first learning goal is to list some personal rights. So some of our personal rights are as follows. We have the right to freedom of speech. We have right to basic food, health, and welfare. Yeah, so there's some of our basic personal rights. You have a right to not have your property or things stolen, for another example. Name some human rights and explain why each one is a right. So you've the right to own your own home. You've the right to live in safety. You've the right to live without being put under abuse, torture, anything like that. Okay, so that's named some of the human rights and explain why each one is a right. Well, you have a right to own your own home because this is enshrined in a document called the UN Universal Rights for Humans, and there's about 60 of them, and they say you have rights to all your basic needs and basic requirements to live in a safe and happy place. Okay, so it's to make the place a better and safer place to live in. Where everyone has a right to choose, to speak, to live. And remember, it's not always like that in every country. Say, for example, in dictatorships in North Korea, they mightn't have as much freedom of what they can say or what they can print in their newspapers and on media, etc. So explain what the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights is and why we need it. Okay, so the Declaration of Human Rights is a long document with 60 rights that humans are entitled to, and that the world has backed. In other words, there's about 190 plus countries that have signed up to the United Nations declarations. They're the organizations that help look after the world. And this declaration is a document outlining this is the way we should look after people in the world in a positive way. So, explain why we have a responsibility to protect and respect each other's rights. Well, if we didn't have documents and laws and rules and rights, people would be allowed to do whatever they wanted. And if that included, say, theft, murder, when you're buying and selling goods, to do whatever you like, leave it back, take it, don't take it, pay for it, not pay for it. Obviously, that's going to cause massive problems for the world we live in, right? So we have a responsibility to keep these rights so that everyone is in a safer and happier place. Name one international agreement or convention which can protect human rights. So there's the UN Convention on the Child, and that is outlining rights that children are entitled to. So again, one of the biggest ones that rights for children is that they're allowed to live in safety. Yeah. Okay, so explain reasons why rights are protected by these international conventions. Well, we've mentioned that already, and again, it's helping you to remember there that there is a document called the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, and there's a long document on the Convention of the Rights of the Child, right? And reasons why they're protected is to keep us all in a much better place and world to live in, not just in our individual countries, but as unions and as organizations around the world, and as individuals and as societies and as communities. And they mean a lot the same thing, people working together and living together. Yeah. Okay, so give examples of how to be responsible towards the environment. Okay, so this is the first, number 7 question here. This is the first question that relates to strand 2, which is all about the environment and sustainability. So the first few questions, you'll find information on those from strand 1. But now we're on to strand 2, and it says give explanations of how to be responsible towards the environment. Well, the 3 key words to remember there are that we need to reduce the amount of things we're using. We need to reuse things. So that's like using Tupperware boxes to store food and to reuse rather than buying packaging. So reduce, reuse, and to recycle. So any of our paper and plastics, if we can put those into the green recycling bins. The brown bins are for food compost, and then your black bins are for your general items that can't be reused and can't be recycled. Okay, example of one of those is one of those black plastic containers. So when you scrunch them and then they immediately scrunch out again, they can't be recycled. And we need to keep things dry and wash them out before we put them into the recycle bin. And we know that's not easy, but we all have a responsibility to do our best. Okay, so explain what is meant by community and give 2 examples of communities. Okay, so you have the community of Rush School, St. Joseph's community. That's a community because it's got people working together, and it's got the board of directors, it's got teachers, it's got students, it's got the maintenance and cleaning staff, it has the office workers, it has the students, it has everyone that makes up a place is a community. You also have a community in Rush. So again, you have all people working and living together in an area. That's called a community. Our most local one is called Rush. Okay, so compare and contrast 2 different communities. Okay, well, the community in Rush is made up of business people, also made up of kids, older people, younger people, companies, shops, sports clubs, community centres, etc. Whereas, and they all work towards the benefit of that community to help people and help people to have a better place to live. And then also in the school then, how that contrast is, well, we wouldn't have as many businesses running in the school. We might have our local enterprise businesses. We won't have as many shops in the school. We might have 1 coming in, but it's not like the amount of shops you have on a main street in Rush. And obviously Rush is an awful lot bigger as a community, whereas the school has a smaller community with less people when you add them all together. Okay, explain what are the characteristics of a community. Okay, well, a community should be one that looks out for each other, that are neighbourly, that are friendly, that take time to help people, and also that are for the benefit for everyone who lives or works in that community. Explain how certain communities organise themselves and give examples of one community. Well, the community of Rush helps to organise itself by using local councillors and even more so the local community centre. So that will have a lot of activities on for the community to help benefit the community. Now, number 12, give examples of community development. Well, that means what has been built or developed in Rush that has helped the community. If you think of any of the centres to help young people, the Youth Reach, the community centre, the library, the GA clubs, they're all being developed. And of course, the new school that's planned for Rush, that hopefully will be an example of a good new development in the community. Okay, so give examples of, sorry, last one, number 13. Explain the term stereotyping and give examples of its harmful effects. Well, stereotyping means thinking everyone is the same, when we know that everyone is unique and thinks, has their own thoughts and their own personal beliefs, and not just in Ireland, but we have people around the world, and people can be different, and that's okay to be different. So what some people do then, which is wrong, is they stereotype, and they'll say, right, all these people are such and such. So for example, all people who are 6 foot are terrible, horrible people, for example, which we know they're not, but that would be stereotyping. You can pick millions of examples of saying these type of people are this because, but they're not, because within that community then you have all different types of people. So we need to be aware of that and not tarnish people with the same brush. Okay, hope that was helpful. Please email if you want further explanations on any of the points 1 to 13 there. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for your attention, and keep safe. Bye-bye. Hello again, class. I thought it'd be useful for you to go through priority learning units for CSPE, to break it down a bit and just to see, so that you can see what's required, and also see that there's plenty of scope for us to do different things in different ways outside of the book. So not all chapters have to be done in the book. What we try and focus on is the overall for each strand and the kind of needs for each one of those. If that makes sense. Again, remember you have my email, john.mcgarry@stjosephsrush.com if you need help with any of this. But yeah, so we'll start off. So the PLUs are basically priority learning units. They're another way of saying what's the most important things we need to learn about CSPE, civic, social, political education. Okay, so we've got rights and responsibilities. You know that's strand 1. You'd know that from class. And you'd know also from class that we call strand 2 global citizenship. Well, no, actually you might know that one because a lot of us haven't dealt with that one yet because we moved on to strand 3. So you would know exploring democracy is strand 3. And you'd know strand 1 is rights and responsibilities, both first and second years. Okay, so what's important here to learn about in rights and responsibilities? Well, we want to learn about what it means to be a human and how to live in a community, and what are rights and responsibilities, what are the difference between them. Create presentations on where human dignity is not respected. In other words, human rights abuses around the world, that we highlight those, and we have a knowledge of them. And create a hierarchy of needs, wants, and rights. Yeah, know the difference between your needs, i.e. say basic food, shelter. Your wants, maybe the latest fashion designer label. Rights, then you have a right to free speech, right to education, and know the difference between those, yeah. Okay, so assemble a basic needs basket representing the needs of a family living in Ireland, not just their economic needs. So again, that's something to think about. What are the needs that people have, yeah? Access and interpret numerical data showing local and global distribution of basic resources and patterns of inequalities. What that basically means is have a look to see some graph or some form of figures to see how we compare in Ireland versus what resources other countries have. Yeah, you know that Ireland is one of the richest, we talk about in the class, one of the richest in Ireland per capita. GDP is one of the highest in the world. We know that other places like the Congo would have a different standard of living and different rights. We talk about North Korea, different rights and different standards of living there too. Okay, so number 2, human rights instruments. Share stories of individual groups who inspire them. And again, we do a lot of inspiring stories in class. We have a list of videos on the website there of the ones we use. And yeah, so create a timeline tracing the origin of the concept of human rights, showing 5 or more key dates. So where did human rights start? Remember, well, the Bible, and remember kings and queens then, and how things became law and rights. All that we did in the book. Okay, and also communicating their understanding of how UNDHR and UNCRC and ECHR applies to their lives in terms of both their rights and responsibilities. So what that's talking about there is your human rights, and we did those in class, the list of human rights, about 26 of them in the book. And then we had a children's rights as well, which is additional rights that you especially have as children too. Okay, identify examples of social, cultural, language and economic, civic, religious and environmental and political rights. So in other words, looking at rights from different angles. And outline different perspectives in situations where there's an apparent conflict of rights. So we talked about Northern Ireland where there's a conflict of rights. For example, Protestant Orange groups may want to walk down the streets of, say, an estate full of Catholic Republicans, and vice versa. And sometimes there's problems with that. And they'll say, well, we've a right to this, and then we've rights. There's a clash of rights there. Okay, and show an appreciation of the responsibility to promote and defend their individual human rights and those of others. So we went through different people who defend rights, and people like Martin Luther King, and also people like Nelson Mandela, and different people who fight for people's rights around the world. Yeah, we know the United Nations set up as a peacekeeping force to try and fight for those human rights worldwide too. Human rights instruments then. So share stories of people who inspired them because of their work for human rights. Again, we did a lot of different ones on that as well. Create a timeline tracing the origin of the concept of human rights. Yeah, so showing how rights became rights. They started with kings and queens and various forms in history, and then built into documents. So communicate your understanding of how, yeah, we need to move on to show an appreciation of their responsibility to promote and defend their individual human rights and those of others. Okay, so actually getting out and actively, and we joined up a VAS and actively trying to defend human rights around the world, and being active on that, and caring about people and wanting for them to have the same rights and good standard rights like the Western world. Reflect on what has been learned in this strand. So every time we finish a strand, I want you to do a 2-page A4 typed up or audio, and you reflect on what it is that you learned from that strand. Okay, so we said this is strand 1. And that was called Rights and Responsibilities. Now, moving on to global citizenship, that's strand 2. And then if we go further down, we're going to be talking about strand 3, which is the one we're currently on, exploring democracy. Okay, so what we do is we go on to exploring democracy next. Now, there's 13 learning outcomes. Do you need to know them, you know, off by heart? No, you just need to touch on them and have a good general knowledge to reflect at the end of what you learned about exploring democracy. Okay, so the meaning of democracy is a big section on that strand 3. So how does democracy work? Where does it come from? Does North Korea have democracy? How does Ireland's democracy work? Yeah, we all have the vote to vote in the leaders that we want. Who has power and influence on democracy? The United Nations, voluntary organizations, VAS, Greenpeace, world leaders, all try and promote, well, most try and promote democracy around the world, which means giving people power and giving people the vote. Describe decision-making process and the roles of different groups in their class and their school clipboard. So is it a democracy in school? Who gets to make decisions? Who gets into powerful positions? Are they voted in? What way that works? And again, interview people about that to find that out so that you can have a better understanding and ask me. Compare two or more systems of government, taking particular note of the ways in which the state interacts with citizens and citizens shape their country and their state. So we talk about North Korea, we talk about Ireland, and we might talk about America, yeah, and we've done a certain amount on that already. So use the correct terminology to describe Irish and European democratic institution structures. Yeah, so how the UN works, all the different bodies within the EU, like the EU Parliament, the EU Council. Yeah, that's a big part of that chapter on the EU. There's a big section in Strand 3 on that. And there's also a section on the United Nations, yeah, which is a big global organization to help peace around the world. So 3.5, discuss strengths and weaknesses of the democratic process. So why is it good? Is it working? Is it not working? And is it democratic enough? Do enough people vote in Ireland? Is there a big section of people not voting? If not, why? And then the people who are in power, are they in power elected by all the people or just maybe 20, 30% of the people? And is that right? Is that wrong? Is it working? Is it not working? We'll be better with it. We'll be better without it. Russia, you know, is more of a dictator system whereby Putin has been in power a long time now, consecutive years and consecutive terms of office. Is that working well? Is it not? So it's not as clear-cut and not as straightforward sometimes as you might believe. So the law and the citizen. So law, we dealt with in detail there. We did a big video on it as well. And you identify laws that relate to your lives, what laws you have to obey. Explain how the Gardaí and the courts enforce laws. Explain the role and the relevance of local, national and international courts. Remember, the EU courts and the international courts, along with our small claims court district and our own Irish courts, just be aware of that. And we've gone through that. And investigate how individuals or groups have used the law to bring about change in society. So how can you bring change in society, better ones? For example, a really simple one is like, the law now is to have plastic, that you have to buy plastic bags, yeah? That you have to spend money to get them, whereas you should use your reusable ones and bring your bags in with you to supermarkets, because now we brought in a law that says you need to do that. If you don't, you're going to have to pay for a bag. Yeah, so that really helped the environment, because a lot of wildlife and marine life were dying because those plastic bags, and those plastic bags take thousands of years to disintegrate. So good idea. You know, laws can be good, they're not all bad. In fact, most of them are good. They're there to protect us and to protect our world. Okay, the role of the media in a democracy. We debate the pros and cons of media freedom. How much freedom should people have to say what they want? Again, in North Korea, it's going to be different, and China is going to be different. And what they can look at and what they can say is different than what we can. We have a lot more freedom in Ireland, for example. Debate the pros and cons of this freedom of media. Trump, for example, he's putting up different posts. Should they be more monitored? View of Radcar, Twitter. Is it good that we have the word directly from our leaders, or should it come from quality newspapers, or should it be a mix? How do we know which is real? How do we know what's the truth? How do we know who's writing whose blogs? So there's different elements to that. Explain case studies of the use of digital or other media in one of the following: a social justice movement. So, in other words, learning about how digital or other media can create movement. So, avaz.org is a great example of that, with when we sign up to in class, and that it's a big movement of just people trying to make positive change around the world. Okay, so if there's abuses happening in the world, they notify people, and then you click sign, and then you petition sent to government saying we want this to change. Examine case. Okay, so a social movement, that's a social movement. There's many different social movements going on all the time. The Greens have many different social movements going on all the time as well, and environmental groups. A political election or referendum. A political election, we'll look how Barack Obama got elected using not just Twitter, but it was a big part of his campaign, and social media generally was a big part of his campaign to get elected. Criminal investigations, yes, some people get video cameras and can see a crime happening, and then Gardaí and lawyers, etc., need to sort out, is it true, or have they snipped out bits, or what's the truth and what's the reality. So reflect on what has been learned in this strand clipboard. So again, what you need to do then is, when you're finished all of strand 3, you do a 2-page A4 sheet on strand 3, basically reflecting on what you learned about strand 3 and what you think and your opinions at the end as well. So start strand 1 and can teach strand 2 and 3, yeah, in reverse order. So it doesn't have to be in any particular order. The strands, the teacher just decides on what's best given whatever's happening in current affairs in particular. That's why we did strand 3 next, is because the general lecture, remember as well. So reflection should be at the end of each strands. Students complete actions. Again, they can be at home and they can be in class. So, for example, community cleanups we're big on at the end of the year in second year, and then raising awareness about human rights issues in first year is a big one for us. So one of these actions, okay, so samples, slurs, okay, you don't need to worry about that. Keep a journal, okay, well, it's always good to keep a diary or journal on things. Well-being indicators, active, resilient, responsible, respected, and aware. So that's what we try and build in class, that we have actions, that we're building a bit of resilience and hard work in class and outside class, and the idea of all of that, and teamwork, and responsibility, and respect, and the well-being of yourselves and of others. And then we also talk a lot about well-being in class, with a massive module on at the start of the year. We also do an awful lot on healthy eating, about exercise, nature, spirituality, freedom of speech, positive relationships, yeah, sustainability, climate change as well. Okay, we'll go back up now to strand 2, and stay with me. Hopefully it won't take too long now to go through strand 2 and see a comprehensive guide of, you know, what we're targeting in terms of learning. So strand 2 is called global citizenship, and you need to know that first of all, that it's called that. And what it deals with is sustainability. Again, it ties into the environment and climate change. Local and development, local and global development, which is how do places develop and improve locally, and how do countries develop globally. And then affecting, how can we affect global change? Okay, so we'll go to the first one first. So sustainability, we communicate about how they are connected, how ecosystems are connected to each other, how people and places are connected to each other. Also, we look at development and how we can develop in Ireland in a sustainable way that's going to last and going to be good for all our futures. And then we do create a visual representation of data depicting how we might be negatively reacting with our environment. So what footprint do we leave behind? How much pollution? How much fossil fuels do we use? How little renewable energy do we use? How little reducing, reusing and recycling that we're doing? Composting, harvesting rainwater for not. What negative print are we leaving on planet Earth? And then discuss 3 or more sustainable living strategies that we can employ in our lives. So in other words, what can we do to make the environment last longer? How can we protect the environment? Remember we mentioned in class growing trees is a big thing. Letting your parts of your gardens grow wild for insect pollination and growth of different types of plants and wildlife. And protecting wildlife and nature reserves around Ireland is very, very important. Okay, so local and global development. So how do we develop locally? If you think in Rush, remember the Tesco was built. Remember the library was converted as well from, I think it was a community centre. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. And they built it into a great resource in Rush, the library there. So there's some great developments in Rush, theatre and different things. You know yourself, you're from Rush yourself, so you look around Rush and you see what's been developed locally. And then what's been happening globally. So some countries develop a lot quicker than others. So you've got underdeveloped countries, which are places like the Congo, say in Africa, parts of Africa as well, that is what's the word? They're developed in a lot of ways too. So I wouldn't tar everything with the same brush either. That it depends on places within particular countries in Africa as well. Okay, so where was I? Express an informed opinion about the root causes of poverty, both low. Okay, so yeah, global development, underdevelopment. There, I gave you an example. Developing then places like South America, where they're going from underdeveloped to developing, and working towards fully developed. And again, a lot of places in South America are parts of it are well developed and other parts are not well developed. In Ireland, we're very well developed, very well modern. Of course, we're not perfect, and no place is, but we're a very modern society. Okay, so very well developed. We have a lot of really big developments in Ireland, okay? From sporting developments to business developments to environmental developments to everything and anything. Okay, so it's a very broad spectrum when you're talking about development. And then affecting global change then, identify one person and one company or organization with power and influence in the world today. So the UN is the one we use there, so you're not confused. And then analyze, you could use the EU as well. Analyze one global issue or challenge. Again, climate change was the one we focused on. Under the following headings: causes, consequences, impact on people's lives, and possible solutions. So there's a key thing there to remember and to remind me when we're doing it on sustainability and on affecting global change. We want to do climate change, and we want to write up a report writing down the causes of climate change, what are the bad things or consequences if we don't do something about it, what's the impact on people's lives daily and then into the future, and what are the possible solutions. That'll be, climate change would be perfect to do on that one. So remind me about that one when we're doing that next, when we meet each other next. Okay, so evaluate how students can contribute in responding to one challenge currently facing the world. Again, how can we as students then, or how can students then respond to that challenge? Examine a campaign for change in the area of sustainability. Again, it's overlapping here. And assess reasons why it has or has not been successful. So has sustainability been successful in Ireland? Well, we've done an awful lot of improvements, but we're one of the worst in Europe for our targets on fossil fuels and our targets on that 7% that you hear about in the news, that we want to reduce our fossil fuels and increase our renewable energy so that we're a more sustainable country. So we're trying to, the current government, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, we're looking at around 3%. Now I think they're negotiating 7% over 10 years. And that's to basically reduce fossil fuels, increase, reduce, reuse, recycle, build more nature, build more grow more trees, grow wildlife and nature, and that'll all be helpful. So this section here is a lot to do with the environment, climate change, and how we sustain planet Earth. Yeah, so that's strand 2. So okay, I don't want to take you any more of your time up. So hope that was helpful. Stay safe and see if we can continue doing some actions even outside of class on the things we spoke about reduce, reuse, recycle. And trying to do nice things, making a difference, which is what our book and our course is all about, in a positive way to our parents and friends and people generally. Okay, thanks for your attention. Bye-bye. Hello again. This is a video for social education for LCA. I hope it'll be helpful. I'll just take you through some of the bits we did and then the bits that we're supposed to be currently doing on contemporary issues. So the first big module of social education was called My Community, right? And you have to pick your 4 best key assignments from the key assignments you did to present to myself and your year head and coordinator. Yeah, so just take you through first of all the older ones, because I know a few of you were trying to catch up on parts, endings and that you didn't get done. So we need to make sure first of all we have 4 definite ones of these done, because I know some people were absent, etc. So hopefully this will help. So first of all, I took part key assignment 1. So make sure you label things KA1 for key assignment 1, KA2 for key assignment 2, etc., etc. when you're handing it in. And make sure you call these key assignments My Community, okay? Because that's the title of them. Don't confuse them with the next module, which is called Contemporary Issues. Okay, so I took part in a class discussion about our local area in the past. Okay, that's quite straightforward. We already did that. We talked about Rush, and we talked about the different histories and what goes on in Rush, etc., and then we wrote up in our booklets. You could even do this from your head, remembering back and typing up a document on it, if you haven't done already, but most of you have typed it up. So just have a look, check over your work, make sure that you have your 4 organized, ready to go, not in the wrong folders, etc. So number 2, I contributed to 3 different topics on this issue during the discussion. So 3 different topics just mean 3 different things on a particular issue, and the issue we're talking about all the time here is my community. So 3 different topics about issues in the community. That's an easy enough one to do as well. An even easier one here is I interviewed a senior citizen from my local community, so that could be your grandparents, about what was life like in the past in Rush. Yeah, so I would suggest you've plenty of time now to talk to your grandparents, Zoom them or whatever, to call them, get them a ring, write down notes from it, and then type them up. And that's a definite full 100% in it. So there's no reason why anyone in the class couldn't have that one done. Okay, so next one. I designed and presented a simple leaflet about 5 different organizations providing a service. What that means is we picked 5 different places in Rush, like St. Moore's, the community centre, library, whatever, and we needed 5 of them. Somebody did it just on the library, but what you need is to do a short paragraph, maybe 5 lines in each one, on 5 different organizations in Rush. So that's easy to do. So we need to finish that off. Okay, so have a look, see how many you did, and make sure you've got 5. Okay, I plotted a long distance journey by road on a map from my home to another point 100 kilometers away. That's easy to do. Just go into Google Maps, get a photograph of what you did, and just make sure you can actually plot from your home to 100 kilometers away. And I showed you in class how to do this. Number 6, I also showed an alternative route to this point using a different mode of transport. Well, on Google Maps as well, you can change your transport, as I've showed you, from walking to cycling to trains, and you can get a list of trains and train times. So if you can prove that you can do that, get photographs and upload it onto your G drives, you're away in a hack there as well. I went to my local library and got the names of at least 5 useful books. That was the one where we went upstairs and I told you to write down the authors and the names of books upstairs in the section that was about your community, Rush. Okay. Now, number 8, I took part in a class survey to plot on a map the litter bins provided by the local authorities, that's Fingal County Council. So remember we did this as we were walking up to the library visits. So you wrote down where the bins were on the way there and the way back. That's fine, that's all you need to do, but draw it in a map form and make sure the bins are in the right place. And add to it by putting photographs of those bins or photographs of the streets that you were on. And again, it was 1 or 2 people, Matthew Wade, etc., had some photographs done, so they were willing to share them. So make sure you use that, and then bingo, you have another one done. So shouldn't be any problem at all there getting 4 of those completely finished, and that you're happy and proud of the 4 that you've had. So look over the 4, make sure you have them organized, neat and tidy, and that they're done to a satisfactory level. Yeah. Okay, now moving on to contemporary issues, right? So I'm going to flick screens here now. Okay, so when we go into the key assignments checklist on contemporary issues, and again, there's a contemporary issues 1, and there's going to be contemporaries issue 2, which is another module we'll be doing after this one, yeah? But this one, the key assignments you have to do for this one is, one of the key A stands for key assignments, must be a group activity, and one must be an out-of-school activity, right? And remember, we did the library, so you can possibly include that one. We'll have a look here now. So key assignment 1, I took part in a role play, either as a participant or I was just looking at other people doing it, and I recorded as the key thing. I made an effort. I took down the observations about this situation, where a denial of a human right was, in other words, when a person that wasn't allowed, say, freedom of speech, or someone who wasn't allowed, doesn't have access to a home, which is a basic human right. So it's hard to do role play. We might leave that one for class, where we do role plays in class, where we can pretend we're maybe in a situation where we're homeless, and what we can do, what the ins and outs of that are. Key assignment 2 then, I informed the class about a human rights issue. Now that's an easy one, you could easily get going on yourself. You basically type up a Google Slides presentation about a human rights issue. The human rights issue can be any issue that humans have around the world. It's pure simple. I've just put down homelessness there, but it could be on anything, right? There's no real wrong answers there. You just pick something that you're passionate about, that you feel people are not getting the rights met for. And I found some information in newspaper or online, yeah, elsewhere. So that could be online, right? So if you can get an article matching up about homelessness from a newspaper or from a leaflet, any sort of documentation, plus something online. So the more resources, the more places you go to find stuff, the better your mark's going to be on that. Again, you've got distinction, merit, etc., different grades all the way down. The people who make the most effort basically get the distinctions. It's very easy. I won't be denying anyone getting a distinction if you just show that you're putting in the good amount of effort. In other words, good content, not skipping corners and what have you. Okay, so next one then, key assignment 3. I created a poster. Here we go. This is easy. Create a big poster. A1 just means a big poster. So you can sellotape 2 A4 pages together, right? Or whatever way you want, as long as it's a big poster. And you're promoting a human right. So human right might be people have right not to be subjected to racism. So females have a right to be treated as equals around the world, where we know in some parts of the world they're not treated as equals, and in some parts of the world they don't even have a right to education. So you might feel passionate about that. You might feel passionate about something else, where you've had a look at different places and issues that are happening around the world. And again, the RT News app is a great way of finding out what's going on in the world. If you download that onto your phones and you just look at RT News, at least you're not getting fake news then, and you're hearing about different rights. It's a perfect time now because the COVID-19, you'll be able to see loads of different problems and people's rights arguably being denied in different places. So pick one and do a poster about it. Simple. Loads of color, loads of effort, 100% if you have that done. Yeah, so I get going on that. You can easily get going on that from home. Key assignment, next key assignment then is, I explained to my class 3 things I considered right and 3 things I considered wrong with regard to a particular issue. Forget about the word contemporary, it's confused, it's just issue. So one thing that you might explain to the class in a presentation, basically do Google Slides again, and you're going to explain to the class 3 things you thought right and 3 things you thought wrong with regard to, say, unaffordable housing, rents, unemployment, maybe people not getting enough money for social welfare or job seekers benefit, single mothers maybe not being looked after enough, and healthcare is maybe not getting enough childcare for free as this crisis goes on. There's loads of things. You obviously pick your own one that you have an interest in yourself. Right, the next key assignment here is, I contacted an organization outside of school, so it could be a charity organization, and I think we've got to start on this in class, whereby you find out the email of Troker and Google, just Google it, find out. Goal is one of my favorite organizations. I give money to them regularly. They're a great organization, goal.org, right, and goal.com, go into both of them, right, and have a look and see, find their contact us page, and then give them an email and ask them about information on the human rights abuses or problems that you feel is a big issue for the world. Yeah. And then what you do is you do a report. Remember, we did a report before for computers. It was key assignment 4 on Microsoft Word. And I'd given you the layout for a report, to, from, terms of reference, findings, conclusions, recommendations. Same idea. So you copy the same headings from that, and then just make a report on what information you found from that organization. Again, get information. You'll click on About on the Goal website, and they'll give you all the information on the different human rights issues that are happening around the world. So that'll be great education for you to see what's going on around the world, and also it'll help you decide which one you think is a really important one that you should be promoting as a human being to try and help the world. Yeah? Okay, so again, any questions, you'll email me on my usual email address. And you'll put these on Google Drive under the correct folder. Make sure it goes under a folder, name it Contemporary Issues 1, and then make sure you name the key assignments that you do. You can pick any 4 you want, do them all first, but then your 4 key ones, or your best ones, are the ones you're going to be sharing with coordinators here, heads, and I. Yeah, same with everything, with all the other presentations we're talking about. So, key assignment 4, yeah, we did that one. Key assignment 5, with other members of my class, I organize a survey on the attitudes in our local area about a particular issue. So again, this is one we can't do. It would be difficult to do anyway during this COVID-19. So we might leave that till maybe next year or when we're back in class. But I'll be doing a survey where we stand outside SPHE and ask local people in rush questions about maybe issues that maybe they're facing themselves, problems, in other words, issues, human issues that are facing in their community that they think is a major problem. Maybe the cost of living, maybe it's very expensive to live generally at the moment. Maybe it's a struggle for a lot of families that they can't afford to pay for the basics. Yeah. Okay, so there's your key assignments. I just see here there's some little edit mistake I need to address, but that's key assignment 1, key assignment 2, and then there's key assignment 3. So that'll mean this one should have been key assignment 4. This one should be key assignment 5, and then that would make this one key assignment 6. Okay, got it? So make sure you call them those correct numbers, please. And again, make sure you're organized, you get marks for organization, being well organized, showing off your computer skills, and also making an effort. Fancier and more creative, and the better your presentation is going to determine whether you end up with a distinction or merit or pass, etc. Yeah, got it? Okay, so thanks for your attention. Any questions, please email me, and I'll expand on whatever you need help with. Stay safe. Bye-bye.